Joining me, Matt Brown, running for governor of Rhode Island. He's a Just Democrat, and he's got a very interesting race against a Democratic incumbent in Rhode Island. Matt, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. Great to be with you, Jack.
No problem, brother. So let's have fun. Let's start. By the way, later in this interview, we'll talk about how Matt started an organization that was nominated for 2 Nobel Peace Prizes. Not a big deal. But first, let's talk about your opponent. I mean, you got a sitting governor who's a Democrat. What's the problem?
Well, we have a sitting governor who's a Democrat here in one of the most democratic states in the country, but she governs like a Republican. We are a state that had a booming economy for a century and a half. The Industrial Revolution started in Rhode Island, and we had great manufacturing here for a long time. And then in the middle of the last century, it all left, and nothing has replaced it. People have been struggling for decades here, and we have a Democratic governor who is making things worse. She is part of the system. She takes all the corporate PAC money, all the corporate lobbyist money, the fossil fuel money, the tobacco money, all of it. And she's working for them and not working for the people. So the problems here aren't getting better, they're getting worse under here, and that's why we need a change.
So Matt, I'll ask you the question that Anderson Coopers of the world kept asking Bernie Sanders in 2016 primaries. Because I'm curious what your specific answer is, and not because I want to say like, oh please, like they do. So, do you think that those campaign donations had direct effect on her policy decisions as governor?
Oh, absolutely. You can see them every step along the way. So this is a governor who took campaign contributions from the executive of an energy company, a natural gas company, and then announced to the state of Rhode Island that we're going to, quote, do everything we can to make sure this company is successful in building a fracked gas and diesel oil burning plant in our state. It would be probably the largest one in New England. It would pollute the state. It would destroy the local community. They want to clear cut 100 acres of forest to do it. It would make it impossible to meet our carbon reduction goals, which are already too timid. It would harm the future, harm the environment, be bad for our children. The only ones it's good for is the company that would make a mint burning fracked gas in Rhode Island, and this Democratic governor who takes campaign contributions from them. This is a Democratic governor who cut Medicaid while taking hundreds of millions of dollars and giving individual handouts to different large corporations who are her corporate donors, while cutting Medicaid and nursing homes closing and our hospitals looking at closing. So this is it's an old story, and it's a story hopefully that we are seeing play out in the favor of the people across the country this election cycle, which is politicians working for corporate interests, Wall Street interests, and the interests of the wealthiest 1%, because that's where their bread is buttered. That's where they get their campaign contributions. And the working people of this state, the best people of this state, have been left behind over and over and over, and we need to give them some new solutions.
Yeah, I'm just so sick of the corruption. As you're telling the story, you take money from companies and then you do things that help the companies. Even in the best case scenario where that was a coincidence, and let's come on, who thinks it's a coincidence? But even in that best case scenario, at the very least, it creates a massive appearance of corruption. It's sickening. So we don't know who to trust, etc. We got to get all that money out of politics. That's why, look, I emphasize Just Democrats, because they don't take any corporate PAC money. Then at least you know who they represent. But anyway, Matt. In this case, a lot of people are excited about you because of your qualifications and how you're running a strong race, but also because I think the people of Rhode Island might be on her, because her approval rating is down at 40% now. So talk to me about the state of the race. My guess is all the establishment is on her side. My guess is she's got more money. But where do you stand in the race right now?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. This is a Democratic incumbent governor in one of the most democratic states in the country at a time when Democrats are surging everywhere. And still a large majority of people are looking for someone else. Her numbers are stuck in the mid to high 30s approval. So we've got a big opening here. And we're putting forward a strong vision and a strong agenda to change things in this state. And we're running a grassroots campaign. So I'm not taking any corporate PAC money, as you know, any corporate lobbyist money, any fossil fuel money, or any of that. We're running a grassroots campaign. We did 70 events in the first 2 months, and we just kept rolling from there. We've got great momentum. Justice Democrats, as you mentioned, Indivisible, Our Revolution, all behind this campaign, because people are looking for a real change, and they're looking for different leadership that's not working for the corporate and Wall Street interests, but are working to solve problems that people are facing. We're looking for the kind of agenda that I've been putting forward to have Medicare for all in this state, $15 an hour minimum wage, but also some really special ideas that are unique to Rhode Island that we think could be models for the country and really change the way things are done. So obviously I'm trying to block this fracked gas burning plant that the current governor has pushed for, and instead make Rhode Island the first fully clean energy state in the country. We've got all this wind off our coast. We could actually be the first state in the country not only to produce all of our energy from renewable resources, but the first state in the country to do that and export the surplus as a new source of industry and revenue for the people here. And not only that, I'm proposing we do in Rhode Island with the wind energy profits what they do in Alaska with their fossil fuel profits, which is to give the people of this state a dividend for the money that we can earn off of wind. And why should we do that? I'll tell you, because no corporation or bank should wholly own the sun, the water, or the wind. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to all of us. Those are our natural resources. They should get a piece of it for putting up a wind farm, but the people should get a little bit of those profits too. And that's what I proposed here in Rhode Island.
So, Matt, that is a winning strategy. I talk about that on the show all the time. They throw around the word socialist all the time, but the governor who returned that fossil fuel money to its rightful owners in Alaska, the citizens of Alaska, was Sarah Palin. And her popularity rating, because of that move, was at 80%. So if you're talking about, and then all the time the companies say, "Oh yeah, we'll move." Where are you going to move? The wind is in Rhode Island, right?
Right. No, excellent point. This plan to make Rhode Island the first fully clean energy state in the country and give some of the dividends back to the people of the state. This is a plan that would create 11,000 jobs for the offshore wind, for the solar, and these are jobs, as you say, that can't be outsourced. They're tied to the landscape here. They're not going to be able to be put overseas or go somewhere else. They're going to have to stay right here in Rhode Island and earn good wages for the people here.
So you talked about this race against an incumbent, but you've done this before. You're a former Secretary of State, and you went up against incumbent Democratic Secretary of State in a primary and won when you were 32. So how'd you win that time?
Very similar to what we're doing now. That was going up an establishment that was corrupt. That was a Democratic Party establishment here. I was coming in as somebody who had worked in the grassroots and worked in communities my whole life. I was prior to that, co-founded and led City Year in Rhode Island, which gets young people doing national service work for a year, tutoring kids in schools, and then they go on to earn a scholarship in return for college. City Year became the model for AmeriCorps, which has now engaged over 1 million young people in service across the country over the last 2 decades. So that's where I was coming from, with a perspective of community service and community work and solving real problems. And I came in as an outsider, challenged, as you say, an incumbent Democrat in the primary, took on the whole establishment. And we won because the voters are looking for change. They were looking for new leadership. They were looking for a government that would be accountable to them. And we made a lot of big changes. When I was Secretary of State, the primary thing was we took on the corporate lobbyists at our state house, who at that time were not reporting their activities, their spending, and so on. So they're making deals behind closed doors with no light, no transparency. And we enforced those rules and made them do that. I set up a principle. Almost the entire office were white people, and I set a principle that 50% of our hiring would be people of color. We did that. That was a big battle, if you can imagine. So we made a lot of changes there, and then I went on to co-found and lead Global Zero, an international nonprofit organization, afterwards.
Okay, we're almost out of time, so I really want to ask you about Global Zero. So it was nominated for 2 Nobel Peace Prizes. That's amazing that a group you founded got to be in that situation. So what did it do, and how did it get there?
Global Zero was an organization I co-founded, a nonprofit organization that did international work, bringing leaders of all backgrounds together. We were backed by President Obama, other leaders, former presidents, prime ministers around the world. And we worked to get governments to come to the table, governments often in conflict, to negotiate treaties to reduce nuclear arms with the ultimate goal of reaching their elimination. And we pushed for several treaties that were successful. And for that work, we were nominated for 2 Nobel Peace Prizes. We also did a lot of grassroots organizing with young people to help raise a new generation of people who are going to take this cause all the way to global zero, to zero nuclear weapons worldwide.
You've got a lot of amazing stories. Matt Brown for Governor.com, MattBrownForGovernor.com. We'll have all the links down below if you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook. Just click on the links, check out his policy positions, and then volunteer and donate because he needs you guys going up against the big corporate Democrats. And Matt, just one last quick thing. Were you energized by the Andrew Gillum win last night?
Very energized. It shows that people are looking for the kind of change we're talking about. It shows that we want to get back to core Democratic Party values. It's supposed to be the party for the people, not for corporations and Wall Street. And that's what people are looking for. And we're seeing a surge here. We've got 2 weeks left to go. And I want to thank you so much for having me on and just echo the last point you made. This is a grassroots campaign up against what I believe is probably the most extreme corporatist right-wing Democrat in the country. And we've got to show that that is not what the party's going to be anymore. And we got to show it right here in Rhode Island 2 weeks from today. So please join us, get involved, contribute, because this is driven by small dollar contributions. And thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Now, ask not what Brown can do for you, but what you can do for Brown. Okay. All right. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks so much.